Ads are starting, which means it's break time. Thank you for your patience and stream support.
All right, let's just jump right in now. This is Delenn, and I am incredibly late. I am well aware of that. I'm a little scatterbrained today. We've got back from camp, and I will tell you all about that as we go. But suffice to say, short version being, I need to do something really spacey and mindless today. So we're going to be digging some more dirt. Basically, long story short, is that my son, unfortunately, got a little too dehydrated at the Great Escape Camp this weekend and is feeling really, really under the weather as a result. So I'm sort of distracted by that. Other than that, yeah. And of course, I rattle myself every time that I'm pokey like this, late and behind. We've talked about that a million times. It's not worth belaboring the point, but suffice to say, yeah, it's got me a little out. So let's just dig some dirt and yeah, talk about stuff, I guess. So camp this weekend was a blast. I had a good time for the most part. It was dehydration was the name of the game, apparently. There were a number of youth that actually were feeling quite ill for various reasons, or at least various symptoms, but it all stems to and boils down to dehydration. And it's a bit of the nature of the game in terms of the game we were playing. So it's based on, very, very loosely based on, a situation from World War II, where a bunch, I think it was 76 people, escaped from one of the prisons a POW camp, and 3 of them made it back. 50 were recaptured and executed. Yeah, so it was interesting. But anyway, while that sounds morbid, we play it as a lightweight game. I mentioned a lot about this last week, but the game is such that we have youth 11 to 14 in teams with 2 adults, trying to find in the dark a series of 5 checkpoints plus potentially 1 hidden sort of hidden secret checkpoint, I guess. But they get very, very vague maps to start with that show you the boundary lines and loosely where the checkpoints are. But that's it. That's it. No further details. No topography. No fence lines. No features. No nothing. I mean, I think they might have gotten told about the lake that we had. It wasn't really a lake, kind of a pond plus, slough plus, I guess. And they get told about that because that is a major safety hazard. So that they do get some things like safety hazards marked on the map, but not a lot. So the teams started out after 7 p.m. Now in in southern Alberta, where I am, we the sun starts going down fairly early at this point in the year. I forgot to double check exactly what time sundown was on the weekend. Let's see if I can quickly pull up what it's supposed to be for today. Weather today. Do we have sunset? Sunrise, sunrise, sun, sun, sun. Okay, we've got sunset shortly after 7. So yeah, there we go. Sunset at 7, sunrise at 7:45. So suffice to say, the first team started going out fairly early. One of our 2 teams from our group left at 5 after 7, I believe, on Saturday. And the other team left at 20 after 8. So they staggered them. That's not common. Some years they don't do the staggering thing. This one, hello. This one, hello, buddy. So yeah, this year they've staggered, or this past year they staggered it. And so the staggered leaving time is a little bit surprising to us because usually there's a plan in place. Not always, but usually. And I guess this one didn't have a major plan in place in advance. So we didn't know. Anyway, so the youth, okay. So the youth leave, and they have to find these checkpoints in the dark with their leaders. Is hiding involved as well, because you have the older set of youth who don't need leaders with them, and they're allowed to go as singles or more, should they wish to stick together. That part's optional. But in any case, they leave at about an hour later. So I think they were out by 20 after 9. Oh, and I guess I need another shovel. They were out by about 20 after 9, and so they go out and they chase the first group of youth. So it's tag, basically. Efficiency, sure, go with that. So when the youth are running around doing their thing, that's great. That they're doing their thing. But they have to remember to hydrate. And at the stations, if they can find the checkpoints, there was water available to reload. But a bunch of them know that they're going to be out there for hours. So they either are excited and focused on the game, or they want to keep moving and don't want to stop to take a water bottle out of their backpack. Or some of them chug down the water early and they just don't have any with them. And if their team gets turned around and they can't find a checkpoint, they don't have a hydration refill. So my son was of the category that got themselves too mentally wrapped up in the game and distracted, so he didn't drink anything during the game. And he drank maybe, I don't know, a quarter of a liter over the course of Sunday morning, so that wasn't great. And I don't know how much he drank during the day on Saturday when they were moving from activity station to activity station. It didn't sound like much. So as you can imagine, today he's quite sick as a result. There were some that, like on the field, that had to be taken off because they were quite sick that day, that evening. during the game. One of our team did get sick to his stomach, but they knew what it. Oops. Uh-oh. So they knew what it was. Oh, for Pete's sake! I don't want to do this. I don't want to hurt the llamas. You. Okay. Well, sorry, buddy. There we go. Anyways, where were we at? Did I? So some of our team were quite sick earlier on in the game, and they knew what it was, so they knew that they were close to quitting anyways. But they figured out what it was, and they had that kid hydrate a fair bit while they were there, and he didn't get sick again, so that worked out well. But yeah, so that's what we're dealing with today. That's got what's got me all sort of spaced out at the moment and not paying a whole lot of attention to stuff. Yeah. So anyways, the way that the game works, they could be out for hours. So like our team that left 5 to 7 was very gung ho, and they actually didn't get back till, geez, probably about 20 to 2 in the morning. So they're running around in the dark. They don't use their flashlights unless they absolutely have to, because of course it'll get them spotted and seen. And the what was I gonna say? And so, yeah, and the moon was hard to see because we had some overcast skies with some spitting rain on occasion. So they didn't actually have a whole lot of stuff. And that's another thing too. Some of them got cold because it was close to freezing. Actually, I think overnight it went slightly into the freezing temperatures. I think our lowest was probably about 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning was our temperature. We were probably about, I'm thinking in Celsius here, so we're probably about -3 or so, which doesn't sound like a whole lot, but so I have to do the math, but I believe 0 Fahrenheit is about -18 Celsius. So we know we're better than that, but we're definitely quite cold. That was rough. Okay, let's clear that. Anyway, I say it anyway a lot, but it's part of a redirector thing.
Hello.
Hello, Wildy. How are you doing? Good to see you. Good to see you. Welcome on in. I think it's been a while, so I'm not totally sure if we've met, but what caused you to drop by today? I'm quite curious. So, I'm sorry to hear that. Hopefully your day gets better. I really do hope it does. Oh, shush. Critter's in a hole. I think I've got... Let's see, I think I've got... Take the risk. I use quality of life mods on here. As you can see from the minimap is one, but I do use a bunch of other quality of life mods as well, just because things are a complete hassle if I don't. But no, I can survive it, but it's not fun for me to do it straight out vanilla. So some of the quality of life mods I have include things like inventory profiles next, with a feature that will make noises if it's trying to replace my shovel and can't, but it will try and replace it before the shovel breaks. So I'm hoping I have that enabled, otherwise I might lose a netherite shovel, but you know, life's like that. Anyway, so on the game, we had some fun, like it was good. And this year, something, I shouldn't say new, but they had a lower incidence of scout leaders who were not going out with their teams, were not stepping up to volunteer to do other positions in advance. Therefore, they actually had to ask them to sign up at the event. So they wanted basically everybody to be volunteering for something. And some groups usually say, well, I need to have a pair of leaders left behind so that if one of the kids have to come off the field, we don't have to pull off the whole team, just in order to make sure we have enough coverage according to our rules that, you know, the kid can be at camp. And the system this year was they had roving patrol teams of leaders from like mixed groups, so that if that happened, they could either find the leaders from the affected youth group to get them to go back to site, or they would be able to like rove and cover basically all of that for multiple different youth, because you don't really need it. adults to sit with a teenager, like an early or preteen or teenager, when they're not doing much. I mean, if there's kids that are problematic, sure, but if they're coming off of the game field, it's usually because they're not going to be doing something that's going to get them into trouble. For example, they'll be like too cold, or they'll be sick, or something like that. That just means they're less likely to run around and get themselves in trouble. So they had that sort of thing, which means then that our leaders that were going to stay behind got dragooned into various positions. One of ours, he has bad knees, so he couldn't actually be out in the field, which then ended up with him doing a check-in station, so like check in and check out for the teams. And my sort of scouting partner and I guess you could say, she and I are not super comfortable, as you can probably imagine. Oops, that's why I'm getting so much. She and I are not super comfortable necessarily getting stuck with other unfamiliar leaders and ones that don't necessarily understand the way we work. And what I mean by that is some of the personality things with various leaders and why one would stop or why one might have had issues, or even something as simple as tolerance for dehydration related behaviors early on while you're sorting things out, simply because that other leader was around you during the day, so knows what you were up to. But anyway, so the two of us went out as a walking team, just a pair. They called them the League of Nations. It was a reference to, of course, the supposed League of Cooperating Nations from World War I to World War II. But had the real escapees actually had access to League of Nations people, they probably would have been a lot more successful at their escape than they were. So that was not the case in the end. Where am I here? Yeah. So that was not the case in reality, but definitely needed to be the case in the game, just for safety purposes, to have adults who could look out for the youth and teams and get them back on track if they were lost or something like that, or injured or whatever. We had a few weird incidents too, like it seems dead obvious to me, but apparently it was not dead obvious to the individuals involved. When we had some people filling the medical role, and they actually at one point had to go out on foot to the field to try and find a particular youth who was injured, to be able to bring them back. And for some reason, the team decided that they were going to turn off their radios. Not entirely sure why you would bother doing that. It does two things for you. I mean, aside from communications, it lets other youth and leaders and players in the field know, by being able to hear the radio crackles and stuff on and off, that like it's not giving away information for the most part, and it's not, but it's letting them know you're not a player. You're not someone to either hide from or to try and like follow and find. You're not a checkpoint station or whatever. But nope, these guys had turned off the radio, and then once the youth had been located and moved safely by one of the League of Nations teams, and then evacuated from the field by vehicle, then these medical team, we were trying to get hold of them to turn them around and say, go back to base. But of course, with the radios off, we couldn't find them. So they eventually turned up at one of the checkpoints because they were confused. They said, I thought the youth was in the field near this checkpoint. And they're like, it's been dealt with 20 minutes ago. You guys had your radios off. And they were really quite confused. They're like, well, we were told to go find this youth. It's like, well, yeah, but we couldn't tell you that it's been done. So yeah, that we had dumb stuff like that. But there's a lot of things that were useful. As part of the League of Nations team, we also got to do things like we could, if some team was completely and utterly lost, or they were or there was concerns over their health, like they were cold or they were getting dehydrated or whatever, we could leak information to the leadership of that team to give them the directions to the nearest checkpoint. We didn't have, as League of Nations, we actually got maps that were terrible as well. They were better than what the players were getting, but they had all the checkpoints on there. They had things like oil and gas wellheads. Some of them have pump jacks on them, some of them don't. They still have to be fenced and checked and stuff. So we had that. We had, what else do we have? A bit of a satellite view on the map, not a great one. No actual topography markings, would have been nice. But those are things. And we could see where more of the roads were on the map. I think some of the fencing was marked, but I don't recall specifically. And then we had regions that we were supposed to walk. So basically, like for example, mine was region 4. They called it Q4, but we had 8 teams, so it wasn't exactly a quarter. But the disadvantage was you're not supposed to check in at a check-in station. Like, I mean, you can drop by if you've got a checkpoint in your region, but with only 5 checkpoints, you weren't going to have a check-in in your location. And even the League of Nations teams were not told where the secret checkpoint was. So it wasn't like we could actually help people with that either. And so the idea basically being is the youth teams have to find the checkpoints. They get a certain number of points for getting there. I believe, if I remember correctly, I believe it's up to 60. I'm not entirely sure, but it's like averaged over the course, over the entire team, because teams are different sizes, right? But there's a maximum size. And, but then any one youth, they lose a point at the checkpoint for every time that they've been tagged by the older youth in between. So there's rules on how frequent the other youth can tag, etc., etc. But any one youth can only lose their team up to 5 points for a checkpoint. Once it's like for tagging, sorry. So once the youth has been tagged 5 times, they can no longer lose any further points at that next checkpoint. So there's strategizing that can be done that way too. For example, if one youth repeatedly seems to get tagged, or at least has been tagged there 5 times between checkpoints, then it's worth it for the team's score to then, if they are looking like they're going to get tagged again, to try and use that same youth who's been tagged already as bait, so that the rest of the team can hide and get away. And the reason for that, of course, is because then you maximize your opportunities, or I should say minimize the number of points your team loses. What they had recommended in the past was just for player fairness, so that youth playing didn't feel that they were terrible and always bringing their team down and whatever. That's why they put the caps in. But also, they let the teams, or they recommended in the past to have the teams sort of try and round robin who was the bait, so that it was spread out and everybody got tagged the same, more or less the same amount. But of course, every youth has different levels of skills in terms of being able to hide and such. So that didn't end up working out all that well. And the other thing is then that would also penalize teams that were larger, because if you have more players and your team got tagged a fair bit, you were losing more points. So that's the thing. What a lot of teams do, and ours chose to for the most part, was they call it complete. It's not really the same thing, but they complete by finding all 5 checkpoints and then making it back to headquarters. That's all they want to do. That's all the teams really want to do. And they want to minimize how often they get tagged. So I can understand that. Is this, let's see, E, what are we at? Didn't tell you? Okay. So it might have more space. It's not making noises at me yet. That's all they want to do, is complete and come back, right? If you find all 6 and then come back, that's even better. But of course, the risk of finding the risk during trying to find the secret spot is that you're actually going to waste more points by getting tags. So it's really, a lot of teams just say it's not worth it. And unfortunately, the 6th hidden checkpoint is also one that's not a water station. And that's partly just so that the hidden checkpoint can be easily or more easily hidden by being, there we go, that's what I wanted. Can be more easily hidden by not having extra things to deal with, like a water tank and a heater and so on. So in that one, it's often somebody who's really hidden, like as in a ghillie suit. So the terrain we play in is actually a ranching field. And we've got, at the moment, there's 2 properties that the local council has partnerships with, so that we can do this activity on their property. We used to have more, and the idea, I mean, there's two two pieces to that. There used to be 3 properties. Can you excuse me just one moment? I'm just sorry about that. My daughter was messaging me because she couldn't find her brother. And she's the one, I asked her to step in and be our backup just in case he's unable to text me, because he was having some muscle weakness issues as a result of the hydration issue. So, and she's very good at helping out like that, so that's great. But she also knows not to be in his face because he gets cranky, but when he's sick like this, he will not be a happy camper. But I also have told him just how much, like what I told his sister, so he knows that I've asked her to be pretty much on top of things. If things change in a way that I need to be involved, then he'll let me know. Awesome. Okay, good. She found him. All right. So anyway, so with the activity, our teams were doing that, and so the one stayed out far later than the other, which is good. I can't remember whether or not my daughter's team finished, or if they just got too cold and came back early. But I unfortunately was not able to stay out the whole evening because I got dehydrated. Just sitting around camp, but a part of it was just distraction. So when I was distracted doing other things, I didn't think to have a drink of water, and I don't know what it was, but like my mouth didn't get sticky, dry, or anything like that, and I wasn't noticing that I was I didn't notice feeling thirsty or anything like that. So what I'm going to end up having to do for myself, I think, is set up. I've got an app on my wristwatch because I have one of those Apple watches. It's actually the app is actually designed for medication, and I may actually end up having to set it for like every X number of hours type of thing to set an alarm for me. But I'm gonna try first. I've got a hydration app that will read from the default health app in the phone and measure the water from there, or like get the readings from there, which is good because I've got another. You guys have seen my water bottle on camera, okay? And this one is supposed to is supposed to blink at me on the top every couple hours if it doesn't get I think it's every hour if it doesn't get a reading that I've had some water. But when I do drink water through that, it reports it to itself, and then supposedly, and then it reports it to the health app. Problem I've discovered with that is that it doesn't check the bottle for a report unless the app is actively open, because it's a Bluetooth connection, so it keeps shutting down the Bluetooth connection to save power. I don't know why it does that. I was under the impression that if you leave the app open in the background, it's supposed to report perfectly fine, but apparently that's not the case. I need more. All right. Yeah, apparently that's not the case, which is annoying. So I guess there you go. Them's the breaks, maybe. But anyway, so yeah, I had to come back out of the field early because I had an issue that required more access than I had at the time. Come here, guys. One. Hey. One. Where are you? Two. Hello. Two. Two. Thank you. 3, 4. Come here, buddy. Oh, come on. 5. There we go. Now I can pin you down. And I had a couple extra. Right. Yeah, but I did the field early. Until that point, though, there was one particular checkpoint. Oddly enough, usually the first one, so checkpoint 2, was really, really busy on the radio. It seemed like everything that went wrong was at or near checkpoint 2. But anyways, the zone I was in was actually between 2 checkpoints, and we didn't have any in our space, so we kept trying to go back and forth between checkpoints. There we go. We kept trying to go back and forth between the checkpoints repeatedly, and hoping that was going to help, but not so much. So anyway, there was a lot of things on the road. Not much actually happened in our zone, and apparently it was a really quiet zone from what we heard later on, meaning that even the what's the word? Even the people who filled in after we left actually were bored, which is part of why they actually were willing to do it. So their station is technically checkpoint 1 where they started, but because checkpoint 1 is quite literally almost out the door of the headquarters, and I'm not quite sure why the camp does that, but they've done that in multiple years. So I suspect it has something to do with just not moral, to avoid demoralizing youth who don't find any checkpoints. Maybe there's something to that. I'm not sure. But anyway, we had people from checkpoint 1 basically say, yeah, I'm just, we're willing to go out in the field because not much is happening here. It's pretty dead. So that worked, I guess, in our favor, I suppose. But so might as well sleep. We're close enough. Maybe. By the time I get these guys unhooked, it will be. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I would go out in the field again, knowing what I know now. One of the other things is because I get distracted, and then when I think about, oh, I should probably have a drink, I'm usually in the middle of something. So I think next time I have a hydration pack, like one of those camel pack type of things that has, I've paid for like the sleeves and things to help keep the tubing from freezing and so on. So I think that might be my best bet, is to make sure that my field pack is the one with the like, was it 4 quarts to a liter? I can't remember how much it is. 4 quarts to a gallon. So we're probably about 12 quarts maybe ish of water available with me, so that would be a little more helpful. Because then it's just right there, like as in you've got a tube sitting on your shoulder, which makes life a lot easier because you just pick it up. Like just pick it up, have a sip, keep on going. Don't have, oh, for crying out loud. That's funny. I'm watching it despawn. Can I beat the despawn? Barely. Huh. After all of that, I got 4 pieces. Oh well. So, yeah, like it was fun. I would totally do it again. The League of Nations people, we got safety vests, we had blinking lights, we had, we could hear the radio going, we were allowed to use our flashlights as much as we please, because we didn't care, like nobody needs to tag you or anything like that. There's nothing to hide from. So we were okay with that. Yeah, like I would totally do that again. Being more prepared on the hydration front, but also then using an app and stuff or whatever to nag me during the day so I wouldn't be hydration or dehydrated in advance. Yeah, but when I came back, because I was dehydrated, I knew about it. You know, you get everything and then you go to bed. But one of the other problems, of course, is once you're dehydrated, you get cold really easily. So that's part of why some of the teams came back. But yeah, so once you get cold, it's hard to get to sleep because you are cold. But being up and awake, you're still not getting the signals necessarily to hydrate. So it can be a bit of a catch-22 in the whole spending more energy thing. So yeah, it was fun. I mean, like, would never say getting dehydrated it was fun, but the adventure around it that got it all people distracted enough to make that happen, I think was worth it. And it was our third that I've been to. So my son will be old enough next year to be one of the chasing teams. Although I suspect he won't be a competitive person. On the way back, we were discussing different things that he experienced this year with regards to how the various older youth behaved in terms of different strategies. So some of them realized that the group would be tired, so they would try and tag one of the group and then tag another one, and so on. But another strategy that they often saw were ones where the youth were friendly and would actually help them through things in exchange for you sticking around in green to one tag. So they would get one from your group rather than getting nothing for it, but they wouldn't actually like actively chase you down and stress you out and all that sort of stuff. There's also the ones that hide and ambush. There were situations too where a bunch of them would hang out together in great big droves and basically lie in wait. Not even necessarily all that hidden, but they'd start to figure out where the sort of highway corridors would be, where almost all the teams were going through, and they would just hang out there in mass quantities and get tags that way. Because it's spots where, for some reason or other, the terrain maybe wouldn't let you go all that far, so they're kind of penned in, or it would be the straight line between checkpoint 1 and checkpoint 2 or whatever, and everybody has to go there at some point. So once they figured out where the checkpoints were on their map, like, I mean, they had the loose map that everybody else has. Once they quite literally found them, then you started seeing groups of these older youth, like, hiding or lining up along the routes. And which is part of why some of the smart groups, smart teams that were trying to find the checkpoints, would actually try and take, I saw a few leaders showing off what their route had been over the course of the night. And even if they knew exactly where they were and didn't get lost, some of them would actually have figured out for themselves, okay, this looks like a very natural sort of highway for all the teams to take. Let's find a roundabout route, come at it from the backside or something to try and make sure that we don't get seen and tagged. So there's all kinds of that sort of stuff going, but you have to have a team with you that will have the stamina to be able to do it. It's a very strenuous activity. And I've also seen some groups where this year, thankfully, they didn't have any late arrivals, but in previous years, I've seen ones where the entire group doesn't show up for the early daytime activities that everybody else is supposed to take part in. It's just team building events and things like that run by the various groups attending. So some teams in the past have just simply not showed up. And I got the feeling that this year the organizers said, yeah, that's really frowned upon. We may even, if you don't show up till late, we may even pre-assess your team a penalty for not doing that, like for not showing up and participating, because that gives you a distinct energy advantage over everybody else. So that was the rumor that was going around at one point, and I don't know if they did do that or not. There was one team that actually legitimately got lost and split up in such a way that they ended up with half the leaders, like half the adult leaders, and half the kids showing up at one checkpoint, and less than 15 minutes later, the other leader and half the kids showing up at another checkpoint. Thankfully, it was two along a similar route, but they were turned around enough that they actually couldn't easily get reunited, so I think the whole team quit for the night. It's one of those once bitten, thrice shy, you know. But if teams were deemed to be doing that on purpose, then headquarters disqualified them instantly. It's like, nope, no can do. Can't cheat that way. Forget it. And they pulled them off. Said, you're done. Thankfully, we didn't have any this year that were called out that way, but I know there certainly were some last year. So we've had 1 year at the site where we were this time. A couple years ago, they used this same property, and the whole thing was pouring rain on us the entire time. So you did, once again, you still got close to freezing temperatures in the air, and it was pouring rain on everybody the entire time, like as you could not get dry. And that was a rough one, where a lot of the youth chasing to quit. They just quit early. They said, this is not worth it. And the reason they quit was because when you chase and tag, you have to put your code number, like your player number, on the tag, on, like, it's not really a tag, it's like a card, piece of paper, for the youth that you've tagged. And the weather was so wet and soggy that there was no way they could get their tags or like get their points for tagging, because the papers they were trying to write their number on were literally disintegrating in their hands. So if you couldn't get your number on the sheet because it fell apart, then you couldn't get credit for the tag. So what was the point, right? This year, we didn't have that problem, thankfully. We had some spitting rain, but nothing that ruined stuff that far. So that was quite good. So the way that tagging system part works is I'll use this year's batch as an example, because I got to see the cards a little closer this time. So they not only have station numbers on the card, but they also had them color coded on the cards that the kids are given. And so you get given one when you set out, and then whichever checkpoint you end up at first, you turn your card in with all the tags you've had up to that point, and then you got a new one at that station from that station, and same rinse and repeat basically. So that allows to make sure that the cards aren't, like, it's less chance the cards are going to be destroyed between stations by getting crunched up or dropped or whatever. But also it means too that the turn-ins, when they have enough support trucks running between the checkpoints, they can do pickups, and that allows the headquarters to start calculating points and things ahead of time, because even with that system in place, they still had people calculating, like inputting data and calculating points till I think past 4 a.m. I know the leader who was helping with that from our group said he didn't even get back to our site till at least 20 past 4, and there were still people at HQ punching numbers. So it was kind of crazy. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that doesn't help anybody. So it was like, it's a fun game. I think the youth really do enjoy it. We do see ghillie suits, so camouflage outfits. A lot of the youth will try and wear, dark colors, non-reflective. Black isn't always the thing, actually, depending on what you've got for lighting. Often other combinations work better. Like this year, we found one kid who a lot of the team thought that he was going to stand out like a sore thumb, because he had they thought he was a relatively bright, burnt orange rain jacket / windbreaker as his outer layer. They totally thought he was going to stick out like a sore thumb, but oddly enough, in the farmer's field, just the way the coloring went, after dark, his burnt orange color worked really well, and he fairly blended with the tall grass. The previous year, the youth used a field that had been a farming field. So the major difference being twofold. One, that it had far more gopher holes, or ground squirrel, I guess, holes. Yeah, far more of those. But also at the same time, it had far fewer places to hide, because it had a lot of stubble from the farming, like, grain harvesting and stuff like that. So with all the stubble involved, then the kids had nowhere to hide, right? And it was going to be prickly in your face and stuff all the time. This one did have rose bushes and such that were in people's faces. The Alberta Wild Rose is very prevalent here, as you can imagine. And so they had a lot of that in the way. But, I guess, yeah. Anyway, so had a lot of that to deal with. And there was some people getting scratched. There's also barbed wire fences and things to climb over. That's actually one of the things that is a bit of a rule. A bit of a courtesy, but a bit of a rule is the youth chasing are not allowed to hang out in groups and stuff along the barbed wire fences, because although national level, like a national level of Scouts Canada, for safety reasons, points out that running in a game like this is not allowed because of things like barbed wire fences and gopher holes and other dips and, slips, trips, falls, sprains, strains, those types of dangers and risks. Truth is, in a game like this, it's tag. Like, you're gonna run. So they basically said, if you don't have a need to run, don't. That's just a rule of thumb. If you don't have a need to run, don't. Because it's not about time. You can take all night if you want to. I mean, they do cut the game off. I believe 2 o'clock was supposed to be the main cutoff point. If there's teams still out in the field by 2 o'clock, they start sending out search teams to warn them with like on foot. And if you don't see them, if you don't find the teams that are out in the field by 3 o'clock in the morning, then they start sending the vehicles out to find them in the headlights, which we'd rather not do because the rancher would really rather we don't have, motorized wheeled vehicles running all over their ranch lands. I mean, it tramples all kinds of stuff that doesn't come back very well. So we had a bunch of that going on. We didn't have, as far as I know, there weren't any teams out past 2. I think maybe there was 2, but people managed to get the notice to them, and they were aware. So they had realized they got too close to 2 o'clock and had already been starting to head back towards HQ direction with a fairly straight run, so it wasn't too bad. But yeah, so they say don't run, a very straight line, I should say. Don't run because it's not safe, but everybody does. So the venturers that are doing the chasing are not allowed to hang out near the fencing. If they are anywhere near the fencing, they need to identify themselves. Most of them do. I mean, it's become a courtesy tradition, but it's if they're near the fencing and they don't intend to tag or chase or whatever, they usually will identify themselves saying, hey, I'm here, there's a fence here. If you need some help getting over it, we're willing to help, but I'm not going to take a tag. And I mean, once again, courtesy in return is to offer one sacrificial tag from your team, but it's not required in either case. But the reason for that is because we've had situations in the past where one youth will start chasing another one to tag them, and the other youth won't be fully aware of where they're going, and they run barrel headlong into a barbed wire fence, or they try to scramble over the barbed wire fence in haste, and then there's been injuries involved. So that's one of the the things that they just don't want to have happen. There was one spot that I think it turned out to be a strain or a sprain, but there was brief concern that one youth may have actually broken something. And then we had, the usual number of abrasion related injuries, and we're supposed to report them. A lot of groups don't, because if it's a scrape, meh, whatever, kids will recover. And that's just because there's concerns over, twofold. One is that the scouting organization would like to know about basically every injury, because then they can start looking for trends and patterns, and that will affect some of their policies. There's been some silliness in the past for policies that were, I think there was a well-intentioned, but just the way that it was able to be interpreted looked like they were excessively silly and bubble wrapping people for safety. It's not about, you can't get high adventure if you're too safe. So some groups don't report everything, and that's difficult because that messes up the statistics. It looks like all you ever get is bad high injuries from particular activity, which is not the case, right? But the other part is they would love it if we reported notable near misses. So as in, someone went over the barbed wire fence, and they fell, um, and there was no issue. Or someone ran into the barbed wire fence and they only ripped some holes in their clothes. You know, that sort of thing. They would like it reported so that policies can be put into place on how to handle that in the future, as in like glow sticks and stuff. They've done glow sticks in the past, but unfortunately, cows are stupid. And apparently, I didn't find that out till this year. Apparently, cows will try and eat a glow stick, which is, as you can imagine, not very healthy. So if a cow is going to eat a glow stick, then it makes sense that the ranchers want all of these things cleared up. Well, it takes, if you have to walk the entire perimeter and a lot of the interior of the play space to put glow sticks every like 50 or 100 feet. They want every 50 feet, which apparently was dumb and expensive. They were going to do every 150 feet, I think it was. And National tried to say that wasn't safe enough, so they tried to do 100 feet and then got dumb. So this year, somehow, they got approval to not mark it. I don't quite know. I think they must have hit some sort of like injury threshold minimum last year that made it so that the marking was not approved or something, or like they was not required, or they just didn't tell them. I'm not entirely sure. But anyways, we didn't have that this year. Major concern spots were definitely marked for the players, so it could be that they knew more about it, so that the fences and dangers weren't hidden. Who knows? But they didn't have them marked this year, so I was quite surprised we didn't have more issues. But yeah, not a one that I heard of, which was great. Yeah, there were plenty of kids that were super scratched up, and that was just because they'd give each other a signal to drop into the field. They just flatten right where you are on your belly. And if you've got rose bushes and stuff, you're gonna get scraped up. Right? Hands, face, whatever. So yeah, we had a few of that sort of thing. And those are the ones that there's an impression going around, which is, I don't believe is accurate, but it's an impression nonetheless, that if too many injuries are reported for one particular group, you're going to get a visit from the what do you call it? Liaisons, basically, with the upper levels, just trying to figure out what on earth is going on and how can we help you be safer. And sometimes it's just like that would be a result of conscientious reporting. So it doesn't necessarily mean there is an issue, but that it's just conscientious reporting, and other groups aren't reporting the minor stuff or the things. So the resulting effect is, because there's that impression going around that you, in essence, quote unquote, get in trouble for lots of injuries, then there's stuff that's ultra minor that never gets reported. Right? Or there's concern, same vein as earlier, that if they report too many of the ultra minor things, which is kind of like, bumps and whatever, then they feel that the rules are going to, like the policies are going to get changed on them. So they're now not allowed to do the things they want to do because of safety reasons. An example in point, it got fixed, so it's no longer the case, but an example in point, it used to be that because there really is no minimum amount of water that one can safely be around without risk of drowning, simply because something as dumb as like a teaspoon of water in the wrong place can drown you. Yeah, like less than a soup spoon. Then for a while there was really dumb rules about having to have a swimming test to be around water, having to wear a personal flotation device, life jacket, etc., for every instance of being around water, because they would assume it's a shoreline or a lake or river or stream, whatever. But that got to be kind of dumb, because the very obvious excessive interpretation of that, and unfortunately some of them were the bean counters who were looking at application forms for activities and approving, were things like, our group of 5 to 7-year-olds is going to go do a pond environment investigation where the puddles they're looking at is no more than 3 to 4 inches deep, and they are wearing their rubber boots. But the way the paperwork read, you needed to have them wearing personal flotation devices, aka life jackets, the entire time. Like, does that make any sense to you? It shouldn't. So that sort of thing was really ridiculous. There was other silly things too that related. It wasn't just that standard, but I mean, it's the next one that comes to mind. There's other silly things too that related to that, such as at one point it was required to have 2 people with first aid certification in all situations at all times. Great. But people said, well, okay, well, what if your first aider is the one, or one of your first aiders is the one that gets injured? And that's why you have 2. Okay, fair. So far, so good. Back up. Okay. But once your first aider gets injured, if they actually have to leave the scene because of their injury, then you no longer meet the minimum requirements to be able to proceed on your activity. Right? Because now you've gone down to 1, but the requirements say you must have 2 at all times. So it got really, really dumb. And so some of the people, this is part of why some of the groups would, in an event like this, would not mention whatever their level was, or like whatever their injury results were. I mean, if it's something notable enough that you actually had to go get external medical care, sure, they don't have a problem with that. But if it's something where it's like, we opened our first aid kit, we put a little bit of antiseptic ointment on and a Band-Aid and called it a day, then they didn't feel that reporting that was necessary. And that's great. But yeah, it's so I'm not sure which side of that fence I'm on. Like, I can see that things can go too far, but I can also see why, if you really were purely a statistics gathering reason, like if it was really for a purely statistics gathering reason, then it's good to know. But also the other thing is that injuries of any sort, not like even the minor stuff, the bad news is they count just as much, as in there is no weighting difference between them and something worse when it comes to assessment of insurance. So when the organization gets assessed by the insurance company for how many injuries did you have last year, and they call up the full statistics, the I scraped my finger and I put a Band-Aid on it reports, though they don't really account to much, there's still a number in the database, which means that then you get that sort of stuff affecting the premiums that the organization has to pay on behalf of everybody. So that's a problem as well. And yeah. I mean, most of the time that sounds like a non-issue, but some of those, I opened the thing and needed a Band-Aid, could also extend to, okay, well, why did you have that issue in the first place? And it might have been, a poor training, because your leader wasn't pre-trained on, say, how to give you safe knife skills. So that's part of why they want to know about the little stuff, is because maybe it might be, how do we provide materials or training opportunities for adults that may never have experienced this themselves before becoming a part of the program, and now they're suddenly expected to train kids who may or may not be listening, and so on. So yeah, there's, as I said, there's reasons in all directions, and it's never going to be an easy thing to solve. But yeah, it's handy. I think we had one youth that left due to a panic attack, but I think that was the weirdest one I heard. Weirdest, at least to me, unexpected one I heard. We had some venturers this year that decided it was a great idea to dress up, to try and trick the scouts, but dress up as cows. And I'm not quite sure how they pulled that off, but I dressed up as cows. And then when the youth group started showing up, they wanted to make them think, oh no, it's just cows, we're nearby, no worries. So they'd hang out in groups and start mooing. And just the image in my head is bizarre enough that I can't resist snickering. So yeah, all that to say that. I've got another camp. So this coming weekend is our Canadian Thanksgiving, second Sunday in October every year. And then after that, I've got another camp, but that one's going to be not as exciting. It's I mean, it's exciting, but it's not adventurous in the big way. It's ooh,
Ads are starting, which means it's break time. Thank you for your patience and stream support.
all right. Well, okay, then what I'm going to do is just dig into a hill. Hey, no, sorry, you can't come in here with me. There we go. And let's go and have ourselves a little bit of words on stream for a bit. Take a short break on that front. If you need to stretch, hydrate, yeah, hydrate's a really good one. You know, fill up your bottle or your drink and get something to eat. That's perfectly fine. If you need to, I don't know, check on things, check your laundry, make sure you take your meds, all that jazz, go right ahead. And we'll just run a couple of rounds of words on stream to start. Hmm. I didn't realize the sound had stopped and we weren't listening to music that whole time. Good grief, I can rant a lot. Let's try something else. Start with that. I really feel like that, actually. I'll think about what I feel like listening to. My brain's not working well on words today. We'll probably have to run a second round because I'm very certain we're not going to pass this one.
Welcome.
Hey there, Fox. I'm debating whether or not I'm going to go an extra hour because I was so late to start. I'm kind of thinking, I don't know. Things are sort of static. Oops. That's fair. That's fine. I would really like to get to the carpet art on this one, but due to the recent updates of of Minecraft, Litematica isn't actually updated yet, so I wouldn't be able to use that anyways. And we'll see how it goes. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that or if I'm just going to play whatever comes to mind. Tomorrow will be a puzzling day because we still have a little bit of quern left to do. And then I have no idea what we're going to do on Thursday. It's just too early for me to think about that at the moment. Ooh, so close, so close, so close, and I can't do any more. Oh well. We've ended the ads, that's fine. That's fine. Throw in a quick hydrate for everybody.
2, 4, 6, 8, everybody hydrate!
That looks like it comes from me, but you guys are more than welcome to do hydrates as well. 6:41 p.m. Okay, so this is perfect timing such that if I just dig this... Oh, I went the wrong way. No, it is the right way. Go this far, then I can just head over and grab a nap. Oh, someone slept. Excellent. Wolfen, probably. Which means they will not be replying to that. Oh. Or not. By the way, which reminds me, let's go, oops, freeze this for a second. Just go another wonderful streamer from the team, or the community, and if you are not following them, they and I on Tuesdays collide rather horribly. I really do recommend, if you have the opportunity to multi-park, that you consider following them. They are far more interesting and animated most days than I am, especially after camps. But yeah, I definitely think they are an amazing member of the community. So much fun to talk to, very interesting person. Not particularly sure what they're working on today, but I do know that they were live before I got started today. Yeah, that's where we're at, suffice to say. So as you can see, we are close to cleaning out this zone, and aside from this stupid hole, then we may be done. Now I'm actually debating leaving the hole for now and not filling it in, because if I don't end up needing it when we actually lay out the pattern we're going to build for the art, then I won't, because that would be one less thing to terraform after the fact. So yeah, that's the piece. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. So we're winding down this season, and going to be heading into a new season. I'm sure that there'll be a bunch of chatter in the Dadcraft DC, yeah, there you go, Dadcraft Discord community about what people are thinking of doing for next year. Some people will tell us, some people won't. Some people just don't even know yet and just go with the flow as the mood strikes. As expected, not all the Dadcraft community people are streamers, so just because there are some of us that do, does not mean that if you were a part of the Dadcraft community you wouldn't, or that you would need to be a streamer. You can totally just hang out and chill. The servers that we play on are through Patreon support of Dadcraft, so definitely do check that out if you are interested in hanging out in part of his community and playing on these servers. There's quite a number of them. I believe he's got 7 now, 6 of which are Minecraft related. So if your flavor preference is not Java and you would prefer to have Bedrock, he's got that. We've also got some bingo, a Java bingo server. We've got a couple of hardcore servers. There's a modded server, like modded Java, and I think I'm missing one. I'm not sure what I'm missing, but in any case, so we've got a whole bunch of stuff. And so if that's your cup of tea, there will be a restart in the middle of November, which I will not be on the server the very first day because, well, A, it's not a stream day, and B, I've got a camp that weekend, so yeah. But an indoor camp, yay! So hopefully no freezing and no dehydration, maybe? We'll see. But definitely do check that out because we're getting close to the start of a new season, so if you were even remotely considering that, now's the time. Now's the time to jump on board. But yeah, so I'm not sure what I've heard no rumors about what anybody's interested in doing for a starter house, not like a spawn building. Usually there's a competition run for that one, and I've not heard what anybody's theme is so far, so that's one of those things will be coming too. So for those of you that are part of the community, please do stay tuned for that. And each server will have their own, so they don't even have to have a match theme. And I don't think they'll be choosing match seeds, but you never know. You never know whether or not they will. Okay, where are we here? Okay, okay, so I think what I'll probably do then is I'm at a good stopping point. Let's see if I can switch it over. So I will change up, do a bit of cleanup, tidy up, maybe put away a little bit. We'll see where we're at timings wise, but I may take you guys with me to start looking for the picture we're going to use. I'm not entirely sure. I'm sort of winging it as we go. That's every day, right? I always wing it. Oh, my timer says I'm done, so maybe not. This is the top of the hour. That might be the best place to call it for the day, given that it's been a bit of a wackadoodle day and my kids would probably be benefiting from having me hanging out with them, given that one of them at least is not feeling that well. So let me just get these guys tied up and then we'll find somewhere to raid. So as I said, tomorrow will be a puzzle day of some sort, but Wednesdays will be my whatever strikes after, like whatever strikes fancy. I'm in a puzzling mood of late, but sometimes I need something that does not need me to think, so that'll be the Wednesdays, mostly. Come here, buddy. Hey, you, come here. Did I miss? Where is he? You on a string, perfect. And this one, come back here. You two, you go over there. Gotcha. All right, so these guys are tied up, and I think that's a great place for us to finish it up for now. See who's live. So we've got ourselves a clear spot to work with that we can start putting something in, hopefully fairly soon. And I keep saying I'd like to do that next stream, blah blah blah, next stream. No idea. So things are going to be like that for a while. But let's see who's live and who we can raid into. Refresh my list. Drawing a title map, blah blah blah. Okay, so for good reason, Wolfen is done, it looks like. So we're not going to be raiding in there. No problem, Fantastic Sherlock Fox, anytime. So we're not going to be raiding in there. I think we're going to be heading on into Gruva today. Now it looks like he's been up an hour and 48 so far, so if he chooses to be raiding out at the top of the hour, or top of his 2 hours, I do apologize, but we'll see how that goes. So it's a much busier place in there at the moment. He's got 33 sitting and watching, but do give him our best and we'll start the raid. Button.
Mischief managed.
Excellent. Don't know if I managed any mischief today. It certainly managed me. So thank you everybody. If you're the type that likes raid messages and emotes, they are there for you on the left hand side of the screen. Start time. Yeah, I'm debating just shutting those down. It's usually supposed to be 10 a.m. or my time, noon Eastern, but yeah. So anyway, our mod today for the last couple minutes was Fantastic Sherlock Fox, and we had some chat from Wildy Coyote. Wolfen dropped in to say hi, and we're off to see Gruva Guy. So if you were lurking, dropping in, dropping out, always welcome. Hope to see you guys again soon. Have yourselves a wonderful day. Say hi to Gruva for me, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye for now.
Transfer complete.